So, do you want the team to tank? That's the easiest way to describe it. NFL teams really, it's hard to tank when you only have 46 dressed, 45, 46 dressed on Sunday. Everybody's got to play. It's not like, you got 50 redshirt, freshmen and sitting there waiting to play. You got a lot of guys on your practice squad. The practice squad's, advanced. It's larger than it's ever been before. That's true. But the real question is, would you like to see them end up, in that area of having the best possible draft pick? Right now, they are seventh. They'd hold the seventh pick in the draft if the season ended today. Now, not everybody's played the same number of games, so we'll see how it shakes out. I'll also remind everybody, because we talked about this when Dan Quinn got hired. Dan Quinn's teams historically have gotten better as the season's gone on. It was the same with Ron Rivera. Remember Rivera's record late in the season? Their teams never bailed. They actually, improved and won more games at the end of the year than they did at the beginning of the year. Quinn, in his final 4 games of every season he coached in Atlanta, 16-4. Okay. And then last year, obviously, coming down the stretch, pretty impressive as well, winning their final 4 games. So if you take, Washington also into the conversation, he is 20-4 in the last 4 games of the season as a head coach in the NFL. So he's not bailing. And by the way, I'd be very surprised if the team bails on him. This is just not his. He's not a slap, what. He is very much a competitive. It hurts. He's a communicator. The team likes him. Everybody's always liked Dan. They believe in him. This team's not throwing in the towel. It's not going to happen. I can almost guarantee it. Sure, there's a scenario in which you get to the final 2 games of the year and they sit, anybody that's meaningful, and they take a look at a lot of the young guys. And look, they don't have a choice right now but to take a look at a lot of guys that they didn't intend on taking a long look at. They've already been doing it with guys in the lineup that they never anticipated would be in the lineup. We got Jacoby Jones. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected Chosen, Burks, Chris Moore. Who am I forgetting? I mean, the list of guys that have been out there. I mean, Zach Ertz pretty much has to play. Bates has been banged up and hasn't been playing well, and now Sinnett's hurt. I mean, are you going to just start Colson Yankoff and let's see more Colson Yankoff. What do you got at running back? You've played them all. I mean, you don't even have one. You got the guy from Michigan, right? Remember they signed the guy from Michigan before the season started? Number 7 from Michigan, Max.
Travion Edwards.
Huh?
Travion Edwards?
Donovan Edwards.
Donovan Edwards, yes.
Donovan Edwards. They signed him. Maybe bring him up. Let's see him. I mean, you don't want to see Sam Hartman. Quarterback, we're not going to, you want to bring up River Craycraft? He's a veteran receiver. See what he's got? I mean, they don't have a lot of options. They're going with a new kicker. They knew after Sunday Matt Gay's not a part of the future, so let's try somebody else out. We got another 6 games. We can try somebody else out. See if he can end up being our kicker next year. 301-230-0980. The question really is about tanking to get the best possible draft choice. Is that what you would like them to do? Play all the players that they think have any chance of making the team and being a contributor next year? Again, I would point out they're playing a lot of those guys anyway, even if they don't think that they're long-term contributors out of necessity. It's either that or they wouldn't be able to field a team. Where are you on these final 6 games? Number 1, they won't do it. Number 2, until we get to like the last 2 games maybe. And by the way, those last 3 games, Philly, Dallas, Philly, division rival games, this is not going to be the Kevin that wanted them to lose to the Giants in 2019, or 2023 lose out. Those are regime changes. Who cares? There's no carryover. There's very little carryover to begin with. Trying to get into the best position to get a quarterback. Got the quarterback. Got that figured out. They're not going to tank. I don't want them to tank. I want to see Jaden and Terry and Noah Brown. I want to see the offensive line continue to gel and to play together. I want to see a much different team and they have a chance to be healthier on offense for the finish if Jaden gets back, with Terry and maybe Noah Brown. So I'd like to see what that looks like since we didn't get a chance really to see that at all this year. 6 games, some good opponents, and some opponents that, quite frankly, they can beat. Minnesota, the Giants. They've got some of those on the schedule. I want to see that. I don't care where the draft choice ends. They're not. Yes, there's always the possibility if you end up with a top 3 pick, you can get a ransom for that. If there's a quarterback there that somebody wants. I get that. And it's a good position to be in when you don't need a quarterback. It's a great position to be in when you don't need a quarterback. However, I would caution about the upcoming draft. It's not right now, and the season's been a roller coaster in terms of the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks that were, projected early picks before the season began. Right now, guys like Nussmeier and Klubnik, they're basically day 3 picks, and guys that you'd never heard of, Fernando Mendoza, are at the top of the list. We still have, 3 weeks left, 2 weeks left in the regular season and a whole playoff. This is not 2024's draft. So the kind of ransom you might think you can get, think again. All right, Max, what's your answer?
So I'm on the other side. I'm in favor of the tank. Now, obviously, intentionally trying to lose is out of the window, or out of the
teams don't intentionally try to lose
unless you're the Miami Dolphins.
You can't even do that, really,
unless you're the Miami Dolphins and you instruct Brian Flores to.
But they couldn't even pull that off, right? Because they ended up playing Ryan Fitzpatrick and he ended up winning games
for sure.
But I think that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, the higher the pick, the better the ransom you're going to get if you do decide to trade down. Remember, this team only has 2-3 picks in the top 150. So I want to see them either draft a good player high, whether that's Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, or Caleb Downs. I'm a big proponent of any of those 3. But if you do decide, hey, one of these teams has fallen in love with, say, like Ty Simpson, because while the quarterback class has not wowed this year in college, I definitely think that there's something to the fact that the second these guys put shorts on and do a pro day and have those like Zach Wilson type throws, NFL GMs start to convince themselves into something, whether that's the Jets or the Saints, that I think you could easily, if you do end up behind them or ahead of them in the drafts by some miracle, you could definitely talk them into moving up a slot or 2 to get one of their guys like Ty Simpson or Dante Moore. So I'm in favor of it. I could definitely see us getting a king's ransom from one of these teams that would end up falling in love with a quarterback. But I mean, it's just play the young guys, see how it goes. I want to see Jordan McGee. Kane Medrano has been a healthy scratch for how many games now? Just throw him out.
Well, he played Sunday because he made a special teams tackle, right?
Thank God. But yeah, let's get some of these guys out there and let them go. Just let them play, let them get experience. That's where I'm at.
I promise you guys that, yes, there will be a mix as we get later in the season, and we are approaching the later in the season, even though it feels like the season's over. There are still 6 NFL Sundays left in this season. I mean, we've got another month and a half of football games. And so, I mean, Quinn yesterday, see if you can find this. He referred to post-bye as the second half of the season.
Oh, boy.
On multiple occasions. It's not the second half of the season for Washington because their bye week came so late. They've played 11 games. That's not, half the season. 6 games is not half the season left. But the fact that he answered it that way tells me that he still believes there's a chance they could turn this around and play some good football down the stretch. And quite honestly, that's what I want them to try to do. I want them to try to play their best and win as many games as they can. Now, if you tell me that it's going to happen with Josh Johnson and, Vigors and Donovan Edwards back there, they're not going to win games. I want to see the starting offense out there. I want to see the starting offense out there for the first time since week 1. I really do. And see what that looks like down the stretch against some pretty, Philadelphia twice, Dallas playing well, Denver, look out. I don't think Jaden's going to be there for that game anyway. All right, your calls. Scott, kick it off for us. Would you like to see them, lose as many games as possible to get the highest possible draft pick?
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call. Always enjoy your show. So Max sort of stole my thunder a little bit.
Sorry.
I'm sort of with him. Part of, as a fan, you always want them to win, but looking at the long term, I don't think that we have anything to play for but player development and continuing to build the culture that Dan has built really well. I think it's time to find out from your depth who can play, who can contribute, things along those lines. And you don't do that unless you give them a chance to play. And to Max's point, Belichick and the Patriots were kings of trading down, getting more draft picks, things along those lines. And if they get a high draft pick, even if they get a superstar player that they draft for themselves, or they trade back to a team that says, I got to have that player, I'll give you my first and a second or a third. If you look at team building, obviously Peters has to have the opportunity to draft players to fill out this roster. I love Bobby Wagner. I love what he brings to the team, but he shouldn't be on the field anymore because he's not part of the future. I think you need to give all the young kids a chance to play, to learn, and to grow. And I apologize for rambling, but
it's fine. I think that example is the most obvious example, and it's doable for them because Jordan McGee has flashed a little bit here and there, and Bobby Wagner, to your point, more likely than not, is not going to be on the roster. But by playing Jordan McGee, they wouldn't be throwing in the towel on a game. It would be that mixture of seeing these young players play. I don't think we start to see that, honestly, until the final 2 or 3 games of the year. One thing's been clear about Bobby Wagner from their perspective. They're a bad defensive team, really bad. They think they'd be a lot worse without Bobby Wagner out there because he still plays basically every snap of every game.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, should he be at this point? You love the career that he's had and the influence and obviously the mentoring and the team leadership and all those kinds of things. That doesn't mean that he should be part of the long range plan. I think this is now the time to really. Even the guys on the practice squad, those receivers they've signed. Poor Jaden, he doesn't. When Terry's not on the field, he has no one to throw to because nobody can get open unless they're playing zone, and then everything's underneath. So you got to see if any of these guys can contribute against ones and twos, and see if you've got any. You don't find that beautiful piece of fruit unless you take a bite out of it, right? So if you don't have that opportunity, you're not going to grow or continue to develop your talent base.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. I think one of the things that you take into consideration when you are in charge of this stuff, which we're not, and they know this, they know the answers to this, is sometimes you put players out there that don't give you a chance to evaluate the other players. I think back to the RG3 era, and the idea that in that season, in Jay Gruden's first season in 2014, and he finally decided we can't do this until there were more injuries. But RG3 wasn't giving the offensive staff a chance to evaluate the other players because he was just so horrible in terms of a drop back passer. He just had no clue. He had to play, the way the Shanahans had designed a system for, and that's not what they were doing in 2013. The same can be said for like a middle linebacker. They might tell you, yeah, we can play Jordan McGee all of his snaps, but because he's not ready yet, it's not going to help us evaluate everybody else. And I think that's a part of the equation that you get. That's why with Jaden out there, I want a chance to evaluate everybody else too. Gives you the best chance to evaluate everybody else.